Welcome to the channel. In this video we are going to be driving from Gallatin, Tennessee on Highway 174, also known as Long Hollow Pike. If you look at the screen on the Tesla Autopilot, you will see that there is a blue wheel, and that means that the car is in control of the vehicle. I'm going to try to explain what's going on as we go in this video. As you can see, there is a traffic light coming and is detected by Autopilot as green and just continues through the intersection. And that's a good thing. If the traffic light would be red, the car would stop. One of the things that happened during this trip, and you will see later in this video, is that the sun was right in front of the camera and it blocked Autopilot. It blocked the main camera of the car, and yet Autopilot didn't stop working. That was really impressive because I was expecting it just to don't work, but actually continued working like nothing. The other thing is I have the speed limit set to 50 miles an hour, which is the speed limit. And as you can see my hands on the screen, I'm not touching the wheel. The car is going through a curve and is taking it nicely. One of the things that have improved a lot in the last few updates is keeping in the lane is more steady. The wheel doesn't move as much as it used to. It's very straight, and you can actually feel the confidence in the car when taking curves. And one of the things you're going to see later on is when it's taking some curves, Autopilot is going to lower the speed by itself to a sensible speed, so to avoid any crashes or any problems. The other thing you may notice on the screen is that now and then there is a warning that displays about touching the wheel. That you are supposed, that when you are driving Autopilot, you are supposed to be when you are driving on Autopilot, you are supposed to be holding the wheel, at least putting some pressure or torque on it. I have found a position on the lower left where I rest my hand. It works, I would say 99% of the time. But the main problem is finding that position that is comfortable for you. Otherwise, if you don't hold the wheel, Autopilot is going to give you warnings and then finally disconnect. And you would have to actually stop the car and go into park and then start again in order to regain Autopilot. As you can see on the screen, I enter an address, and the reason I did that is so that you can see on the screen in a better way the curves and on where we are navigating. Another thing that you will see on the screen to the left of the car is that any vehicles coming on the other direction will be displayed on the screen too. So Autopilot knows about the cars that are coming on the incoming lane of traffic and the cars that are also going in front of us or to the right of our right or our left. In this curve, we see that there was no need to reduce the speed. Autopilot continues at 50 miles an hour. There is a car in front of us. Well, I see, it's going to move to the right. Instead, making a right turn. As long as you see that blue wheel, it means the car is under control of autopilot. I'm not doing anything more than just resting my left hand on the wheel and letting the car do its thing and drive, which is really relaxing. Allows you to actually look outside the window and look at the trees, and it's a beautiful view. It was actually a very nice afternoon, very sunny, a little bit cold, but sunny, beautiful winter afternoon. At this moment, I decided to manually increase the speed to 55 miles an hour because there were some cars coming behind me and I didn't want to slow them down. Another curve is coming. It says take it at 45 miles an hour, but who pays attention to that, right? And autopilot didn't pay attention to that sign and continued with aplomb at 55 miles an hour. As you can see now, the sun is about to hit the front camera, and then autopilot is going to complain. That's going to happen in the next few minutes. Autopilot reduced the speed to 52 miles an hour due to that curve. And then it just resumes at 55. There it is, the red warning that the main camera, the front camera, is being blocked, and yet, as you can see, the car continues driving at 55 miles an hour and is not releasing control back to me. That was actually pretty awesome. I was not expecting it to do that. I was expecting it to actually complain and just release the controls and back to me. The other thing that you may notice if you rewind this video a few seconds, is that whenever a car crosses in front of autopilot, autopilot is going to automatically reduce the speed to avoid any collisions. Another warning happened about the camera being blocked. It was a really, really beautiful sunny afternoon. I want to say that this is the first time ever driving this car in almost 2 years that the sun has been right ahead straight into the camera, the front camera. I have never seen that error message before, that warning. It's the first time, and I'm really happy in the way that it was handled. We are about to get to another traffic light, I think, if I remember correctly. And the traffic light is in red and the car stops by itself exactly where it's supposed to stop. Now we are going to wait here a few seconds for the green light. In this version of Autopilot, it will not start by itself after a green light. I have to press this talk to do it. There is an error message on the screen saying that Autopilot cannot continue. That happens sometimes. In that case, you have to take control. But the weird thing about this time is that when I press this talk to go, it actually disregarded the message and continued through the intersection. So I have no idea why it complained that it couldn't continue. Usually in the past, when I got that message, I had to take control because it wouldn't do anything by itself. But this time I only had to press the stop, and the car started, went through the green light without any problems. So I can say that that's a great improvement over the previous versions. Another curve to the left is coming. Now the speed is 50 miles an hour. I usually set the speed 5 miles above the speed limit, and that's basically what Autopilot is going to do. One of the advantages I want to mention of Autopilot is that it can handle new roads. As you can see here, it reduced the speed to 44 miles per hour because it was a sharp curve. Then now it's going back up again to 49, and then it's going to slow down a little bit again, and then it's going to accelerate to 55 once it's under the right conditions. There are other autopilot systems, ProPilot and other brands in the market, but they have to be mapped before they can work anywhere or in certain places. The beauty about Autopilot is that if this was the first time you went through this road, it's going to drive it, because all the intelligence needed to take the curves and manage the road are already built into vehicle. There is no need for previous mapping or survey of the road. And as you can see, it takes the curves, it reduces the speed when it needs to do it. It's really an awesome system that you can actually trust that it's going to work on any type of road. Another curve. Let's see what happens here. If it's going to, yep, it's reducing the speed again. It's taking the curve really nicely. Now we're going to the right. We are approaching a section of the road where it turns into 4 lanes, and we're going to see that Autopilot chooses to go on the left lane, which is the correct way because of where we are going. But at the same time, you will notice that at some point I'm going to have to disengage Autopilot and take control. The reason is the version of Autopilot that I'm running in my car, it still doesn't have the latest, it's not the latest version, it's still in beta. And I'm really hesitant to be using a beta version in my car, but in the next version, it's going to be able to take intersections in a better way. As you can see, we just passed a sign, a 45-mile-an-hour sign, and Autopilot read that speed sign. That's another feature in this version, that it can read and act upon speed limits, not only based on the data in the maps, but actually based on the signs on the road. That means that you will no longer get in trouble because you were speeding up in certain part of the road, and so that means you will not be stopped by police. Now, let's pay attention. If you see on the screen to the right of the 50, there is a 45. That's the current speed limit. We are approaching a new sign that says, this one says 45. I'm looking for the one that is next, that is 40. Once we hit that one, you will see that Autopilot will read a new sign and lower the speed to 45. The new sign says 40 miles an hour, and then it's going to be 5 above, so it's going to be 45 miles an hour. And it's going to do that by itself. Nothing to touch, nothing to control, just let it do its thing. Okay, we are approaching the 40 miles an hour sign. There it is, it's coming. Let's look at the screen. And there it is, 40 miles an hour, and it went down, the speed went down by 5 miles by itself. I didn't have to touch or do anything about it. Now we are about to approach an intersection when I have to turn left. And I have, as I said a few minutes ago, I have to take control to go through that intersection, because in this version that I have in my car, Autopilot yet cannot yet handle those kind of intersections. So hopefully before the end of the year, or maybe early next year, I will have that version installed, and then I can do a new video and show you what happens when it's driving by itself through intersections and whatnot, and turning left or right. Here we go. The car is slowing down because there are cars in front of it. Nothing for me to do. As long as you see that blue wheel on the screen, it means the car is in control. Now, I stopped it. I stopped Autopilot, and I'm now at the intersection, and I took control of the vehicle. At this point, I'm driving it, and this is the feature that is missing in my car, that is coming either later this year, maybe towards the end of the year, like a Christmas present, or early next year. If you notice on the screen, I selected go back home, and now it's going to reroute for me. I just have to follow the map on the screen. By the way, the navigation and traffic is based on Google Maps. If you were wondering what kind of map is being used, is from Google. Here we go. I'm driving the car. I'm going to switch lanes. And then at some point I'm going to set it to Autopilot. By the way, that was me crossing the yellow line, the yellow light. Okay, I engage Autopilot. So now we can continue through this road. Another thing that Autopilot doesn't handle yet, as far as I know, is what happens when a ambulance is coming behind you with all the lights and the sounds blaring. As you will see here in the next few seconds, I had to take control of the car because a fire department car was coming behind me, and I had to move over. Autopilot, as far as I know, as I said, even in the latest beta, it seems that it cannot handle yet situations like that one, so you will still have to take control. of the vehicle and move over. As you can see on the screen, it knows the traffic light is red, now it's green, and just starts by itself. Nothing to do. And I think this is that moment, yeah, when I had to pull over and stop the car. There it goes. We're about to cross an intersection that in the past has given me problems. The autopilot disconnected in previous occasions, so let's see what happens this time. And this is the intersection, and it took it nicely. No problems here. That's a great improvement. I'm going to take control again of the car because I need to make a left to enter the highway. But once we enter the highway, and I'm going to activate autopilot in the off-ramp, in the on-ramp, and you will see that it will switch lanes twice by itself to be in the correct lane. And again, when you see that, it's autopilot doing it, not me. Okay, here we go. Let's see what happens. Oops, took me a little too long to start the car. Okay, I'm about to engage autopilot. There it is. Autopilot is engaged, and on the screen now it says navigate on autopilot because we are going to take a highway. We are in the on-ramp. I'm not driving, the car is driving itself. And wait for it. Wait for it, it's about to signal. There it goes. It starts signaling that it's going to merge to the left. It's going to wait for traffic. There is no traffic behind us, and then it's going to switch. Now, in this case, although this is the correct lane, it decided to move over to the left one more time because the cars in front of us were not driving fast enough. And that lane switch was done by autopilot. Now, another interesting thing is there is a feature in autopilot that as you could see now, or you just saw, it switched lanes to the left, but it can also switch back to the right lane, to the driving lane, and not stay in the passing lane. I found that feature a little bit, I would say, annoying, because it switches way too often, in my opinion, and that's something that I guess they need to fine tune. So I decided just to enable passing cars and not going back by itself to the right lane. I am making that decision for the car. The problem with doing that, or the bad side effect of doing that, is that sometimes, as you will see in this video, I forget to go back to the right lane and stay in the passing lane for way too long, which may annoy some drivers, and rightly so. But I think that if you are driving on a road that there is not much traffic. Like for instance, in a couple of weeks, we're going to be driving through to Texas, and we'll go through Mississippi. It's a 900-mile trip that I'm also going to document in this channel. There are some sections in Mississippi that there is almost no traffic in the highway, and that means that that feature can be enabled and just let it do its thing, which is pretty awesome because it's like 5 hours of driving there, and basically the car does everything for you. But in this case, here in Middle Tennessee, I decided just not to enable going back into the right lane, and it stays on the left lane until I decide it's time to switch back. And as you will see in this video, I think I stayed here for way too long. Another thing that you can see on the screen right now is another feature that you can be watching the rear cameras. As you can see, we have 3 cameras. The main rear view camera, and then the 2 repeaters or side cameras, so we can see what's going on on the side of the car. That's pretty awesome, and you can activate it right there on the screen. When you see that camera icon on the lower left, you just press it, and you can look at, instead of turning your head to see who's behind you, you can just turn on the camera and look straight at the screen, and then you will see what's going on. It's pretty neat. Yeah, that driver wasn't happy that I was hogging the left lane. I don't blame him. I should have moved to the right lane. Hindsight is 2020, right? Here we go, a lot of cars are coming, but because we are on the left lane already, there will be no problems. However, even if we were on the right lane, either Autopilot would switch to the left lane or merge nicely with the incoming traffic. Speaking of going slow, the car in front of us is driving at 65 miles an hour, which is the speed limit, but still. Oh, it's finally accelerating. Good. The speed limit is still 65, nothing to change here. That incoming curve on the bridge is it's not that steep or sharp, so Autopilot is not going to reduce the speed while traveling through that bridge. except of course if the car in front of us is going slower. I apologize for the vibration on the video, but although I have image stabilization turned on, there were a lot of badly covered potholes. Okay, in the next few seconds I'm going to finally switch to the right lane. And the reason I'm doing that is to show you that at the end of this highway we need to make a left turn. So if I'm driving on the right lane, Autopilot is going to switch to the left lane because it's the correct lane to take the left turn. At that moment I'm going to take again control of the vehicle, because as I said, in this version of Autopilot it cannot yet handle those kind of intersections. But it's coming. What a beautiful afternoon. Look at that sunlight. There we go again with the camera. The sun behind us. There we go. I manually initiated switching to the right lane and staying there. And for some reason, when Autopilot decided to switch to the left lane, to the passing lane, I disconnected Navigate on Autopilot, and then I realized I made a mistake, and then I re-enabled it, but that didn't affect switching to the left lane. It immediately reacted and went back to switching to the passing lane, which is pretty amazing. That even if you make a mistake and disconnect it and reconnect it, this will still do its thing with no problems. There we go. I disconnected it. Then I go like, what the heck? And then I switch it back. And as you can see, it's still saying that an incoming lane change is happening right after that car. Or the next. Here we go. The car is switching lanes by itself. Beautiful, smooth. The next thing that we are going to notice is that there are two signs, one for 55 miles per hour and another one for 45. And if we look at the screen right now, we are on 65. There comes the first sign, 55. Now, once we read it, or the car reads it, there it is. It's going to switch to 55 and slow down. And it's going to slow down again once we hit the next speed sign of 45 miles per hour. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to touch any controls. Everything is done automatically by the car. There we go. And at this moment, I had to disconnect autopilot because, as I said, I have to make a left turn and it doesn't know how to handle that. So I appreciate it. This is the end of the video. I appreciate you watching. Thank you again, and I hope to see you the next time in the following videos. I appreciate it. Have a good day.